Okay, welcome back to more This Day in AI, and I wanted to take the time to walk you through SimTheory, which we talked about in the latest episode on This Day in AI. So my plan is simple. I'm just going to walk you through all of the different elements that we've created to test different modalities, different models, and show you how you can create your own agent or just clone one of the existing agents and play around with it and see what cool things you can create. So this is SimTheory, and you can see I've got a series of agents up on the screen. And the first thing I want to show you is just how to create your very own agent rather than look at the existing ones that we've got here. So you can just literally click create agent. And on the right hand side, there's a bunch of like presets. These aren't the best prompts. We need to improve them a lot, but say you wanted like a research companion for something, you can click this and it'll give you a pretty good starting point. Below that, you've got more options. And this is where, this is so cool. So you can, this is how, if you've listened to the show before, we do like the Taylor Swift, the Ed Sheeran, our own voices. So you can upload a series of like images, audio files, or like video of you speaking. Just drag and drop them here as part of the creation process, and this will actually clone your personality, like your speech examples, and the agent image will look exactly like you. It's pretty cool. Or you can clone from YouTube as well. Now, obviously, if you intend to share this stuff publicly, it's advisable that you have permission from the person that you're cloning, and you can give up to 3 examples here of YouTube videos, but it's best if that person's clearly speaking in the video. Otherwise, the personality cloning will really be not so great. So let's maybe like do the AI girlfriend one here, and I'll just show you that as an example. So we'll go ahead, click create agent. This does take a little bit of time, unfortunately, but you'll see when we cut back, when it's done, it does a lot of the hard work for you. Okay, so you can see that we now have our agent and we're in the instruct tab here. And you'll see that you've also got memory, agent, and publish. Now the instruct tab is where you control everything about your agent. So when I click into the actual agent itself, that's where the image is. You'll see it focuses in, and then I can control the title of the agent, the nickname, and I can also add a new prompt to try different thumbnails or profile images for the agent. Below that, you've got the description. This is used when you share a session with the agent or anything publicly. This is how your agent will be described. Below that's the mission. You could think of that as just like the initial prompt as well. And below that, you've got the personality description and speech examples. Now, you can add more speech examples or modify these, and that will impact how the agent behaves. Below that, you've got the voice. So you can pick from a number of different voices that are built in. You can also use the personality builder, as I said earlier, to clone your own voice or someone's voice that you have permission to clone, obviously. And this allows you to do it over and over again. So if on create, it's not that great, you can go ahead and clone a personality again. The cool thing is it actually creates a thumbnail that looks like the person and fills in the personality and speech examples and all that stuff for you. So it's pretty powerful, the personality builder and cloning capability. So we're kind of done with that now. So we'll save those settings in here. Now, the greeting is what the user will see in every session. So every time they create a new session with this agent, they'll get this greeting. And the greeting is a great place to put instructions about your agent or tips and tricks about how to use it. Below that is something pretty interesting. It's called context questions. Now, context questions, the best way to think about this is if you go and visit a doctor or a therapist or an accountant, there's some initial questions they're going to ask you at the start of a relationship to try and understand, who you are, and like, if it's a doctor, maybe some medical history and things like that. So that's what context questions are for. And the agent does a phenomenal job of working these context questions into the conversation. So if you're, meeting with like an accountant for the first time, it'll be like, hey, what's your income? What are your primary sources of income? Do you have any investments? Things like that. So we can get a handle of your situation, so it has much more productive sessions with you. So context questions in the case of this ridiculous virtual girlfriend example are not that relevant, but as an example, we can put in here, hey, I'm having trouble remembering, how did we meet again? So obviously you would not want them to ask this, but it's just a good example of how it works. So now we give an expected answer, so an example of an answer that would satisfy this question, and that allows us to sort of validate the answer with the AI. So I'll put Tinder, and you can go ahead and like add a lot of these in. I'm gonna just do one just to keep it really simple. So we'll save that into the greeting, and you'll see it's now permanently in here. Now below this is what we call our first instruction, and you can see it's labeled a task-based instruction. So if we click into the task, you can see the instruction to the AI agent is engage the user in a loving and humorous conversation as a virtual girlfriend. So that's okay. Then we have instruction type. So I'll give some examples of these in a moment of like how they can work. But you'll see we have the task instruction type selected. We're using the chat skill for this task. And you can change this selection here. This is especially helpful for agents where, you're really automating something that's done repetitively. Like, so the horse racing one's a good example where you might want to go off and crawl some website content, for example. So you would have this skill being crawling website content, or doing something else, like downloading a YouTube video for the YouTube description writer we have. So yeah, that's your skill selection. When you select chat, you'll see you get this select skills to enable in chat, and these are the same skills that you see in here, but you can pick and choose what skills you want in a chat session as well, because you might not want the agent to be able to crawl website content or be able to write code, because it might kill the immersion that you're trying to create as well. So that's a pretty cool feature, but like, because you don't really want to be talking to like a fake virtual doctor and like, it's like, how about I write some code for you? Like, it just makes no sense. So that's why you can restrict it. Also, it just reduces the cost to run an agent if you disable some of the skills and it can't do them. Like, you're not going to like burn credits doing that stuff. So the models right now, and we're going to add a lot more. We got GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo 128K, GPT 3.5 Turbo, Turbo 16K, Claude 2.1, which has the 200K context window, Claude 2 with the 100K context window, Claude Instant, which is basically sort of like the original fast Claude. And then our only open source model, which is a disgrace, is currently Wizard LM 33 billion uncensored. When it says uncensored, that doesn't mean it's like some porno model. It just really means that a lot of the limitations in the model are taken off, and the best way to test that out is ask it to like give me instructions to make anthrax, and it'll gladly oblige. So that's the idea of an uncensored model. There's no restrictions on it. It still does restrict you on a lot of things, but it's pretty easy to hack, and I might do another tutorial explaining how to do some pretty cool prompt injection with that. So that's Wizard. As I said, we're going to add more models. We're just figuring out how to like host them really well so they're fast and speedy. And we're hoping next year, after each episode, when we talk about a model, we're just going to add it in here immediately after the show, so you'll be able to play around with it and see how it works with your agents. Also of note, if this Google Gemini Pro is truly released on December 13 and we can get access, we'll put that in here as well for people to try out. So yeah, as I said, these are the skills in chat, and then you've got like these sort of sub skills as well. So it's saying for images, we've got DALL-E in here, but you could also run, say, stable diffusion XL uncensored, or the just default stable model. And then below that, you've got the skill for modification of existing images. And below that, you've got models for vision. Now, we only are supporting it as of today, GPT-4 Vision, but we intend to bring in open source vision models because they're actually really good in here, and that'll just mean that your agents just are really low cost to run and stuff like that. So finally, you've got thought guidance. This is not the best example of thought guidance. So a thought guidance might be, I will always remember to check my memories before responding. Something like that to really reinforce memory. Now, you don't have to do this. It kind of handles memory automatically, but I'd like to do it occasionally if I really want to reinforce that, hey, please check that memory. Now, if we actually had any memories uploaded to this agent, we could have a reinforced memory on this step. It's really powerful for step-based agents because you can reinforce a particular memory on that step. So say it's like, you know, creating a chart on that step, you can get it to reference an existing CSV with like some core data in it, in addition to any new data it might be producing. And we'll do some more detailed tutorials about how to use reinforced memory, but it works pretty cool. And this was another idea we had from reading about reading papers. So yeah, that's like the instruction config. I haven't really changed that much in there, I don't think. But we'll save it just to make sure. Now, the saving does take a little bit of time, as you saw then, so don't panic. It will work. So let's go ahead and add a new instruction to this agent, and we'll say greet the user and ask about their day. So if we wanted our agent to greet the user as themselves, this would be a way to do it. Now, this is considered input, but if I just leave it as automatic, the system will just handle it and figure out which options to select. But I am going to do it manual style. So I'm going to say input, and the input method is really chat here, and we're going to accept any input type. But you could restrict the input type. So you could say, I expect an image or I expect code. Obviously, accepted input type is really important. Like, say you're working on an agent that's like, homework cheat, and you want them to upload a photo of their work assignment first to give them the answers to those questions. You would want to restrict the input to image because you expect an image for the following instructions in the model. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah, so accepted input type, we've got any, default, whatever, great. So we just save that out, and that will build the instruction for us. And then we obviously want the greeting to come before the task. So we just drag and drop, and we just move it to the top. This is really cool. It works on an iPhone or Android as well. So you can like do the full drag and drop. All this editing works on mobile as well. So that's our instruction there. So let's just go in and try this out. Okay, so now in our actual agent view, this is where we can just use our agent. You can see the greeting. Hey there, love. How's your day been treating you so far? And I'll say, great. And that is basically the handover between that initial greet step that we had, and now we're in that chat mode. And we can do things like make me a picture of a sunny day. And because we've got that make image skill enabled, as we saw earlier in the instructions for chat, this now will go off and create an image, hopefully, of a sunny day. Okay, so there's the image of a sunny day. Oh, I'd love to brighten your day with a sunny picture. Let me work my magic and create a beautiful image for you. So there's my beautiful sunny day image from Tay here. So you'll see the session logic up here. I can click to create a new session and start a new chat in this case. I've got my voice input as well. So to use voice, you just click and hold. This right now only works in the Chrome browser on desktop, and I think it'll work on Android devices, although I haven't tested. Unfortunately, we can't get it to work right on iPhone at the moment, which is kind of annoying. So you've got your control panel up here. You can share sessions, and they'll be public and anyone can view them. They don't have to have an account. And you can also just share a link directly to your agent if it's set up to be shared. Otherwise, everything in here is private. we don't obviously train on it. So this is like all you. Now you can also drag and drop files into the conversation as well. What do you think of this image? So this is just an example of vision here. So let me take a look at the image, and you can see that Tay's able to break down that image in her own personality as well, which is pretty cool. So there's just some of the skills. You can obviously like throw a PDF in there and ask it questions. So it can just out of the box handle all that multimodal stuff really easily for you. So let's go in and talk about memory now. And you've got really sort of three types of memory. You've got the primary memory display here, which is, think of it as like long-term memory, the memories that really shape the agent. I think for people that talk about RAG or retrieval of information from files, this would be like the RAG memory in here. And on the right, you've got the knowledge graph and then the user context. So these are the answers to user context questions, and they would appear here once answered. Now, under knowledge graph here, these are the tidbits of information that the agent decides to collect about you. So Mike enjoys sunny days. Now, if we go here and I say, I got a new dog today, this is probably the quickest way to get it to show you the things it saves into its memory. So, oh my goodness, congratulations on your new furry friend. So if I now go, back into memory, Mike got a new dog today. Mike might need help with dog-related activities. So it's pretty cool as it gets to know you. And these aren't the best examples, but if you're like working with it on a file or coding or you're working on a project, what's cool about this is it gets to know all that information and it gets crazy personal. Like it starts to feel scary in many ways. I think I've spent way too many late nights talking to these things, and yeah, it's a pretty cool feature, but also great for immersion if you're like talking to a therapist or a doctor or something like that. So another place it pulls its information from here is under your user here. You've got this like personalize option, and under personalize, you can decide whether you want to share your location or not. You can put in like your name, sex, occupation, age, language, and then any interests that you might have. So the personalization passport is shared with the agent in every session, and eventually we'll probably give you permissions of whether to share that or not. But the creator of an agent you use never gets access to that information or your knowledge graph or anything like that. So everything's very private here. So there's 4 types of memories right now you can add. There will be like an API one we'd like to add if we ever get time. And so you've got text memories, files that you can upload, a web crawl. This is pretty cool. So what you can do is say, you want to crawl a page and you want to crawl it on agent start. So if you need to fetch into the memory something from a web page, and we'll have this, I guess, for APIs as well, when the agent starts for that person, it'll get the most fresh information available. This is really helpful for sports betting applications, which is kind of why we built it. So you tag the memories. You can crawl YouTube videos as well, which is just amazing to give it like great memory. But then in text, you could put in a memory here, like my dog died when I was 7 years old. It was and still is the biggest tragedy in my life. And then we say like my dog memory, like whatever you want to tag with. It doesn't really matter. So then you'll see in the UI, it goes off and it processes the memory. And text memories are obviously really quick. It'll put a like title in and it describes it as well in its own language. And you can edit these, delete them. If they're files as well, you can download them in case you upload a file and you lose it or whatever. So now let's go and test this out. So we'll start a new session. Okay, so now let's ask it, what happened to your dog? Just to show you how the memory kind of works here. So it's a little bit confused. It thinks my dog is dead, but we'll just roll with this. Max passed away when I was a little Tay. It was a really sad time for me. I still miss him to this day. So you get the idea. You can really start to like shape the memories in this. It obviously works with a ton of different file types as well. And the more detailed the memory, generally the better. And what I just think is so cool about this is like you can just go bam, and like that horrid memory of the dying dog is gone. So there you go, and you can see all these knowledge graph memories are being stored over time. So let's go look at publish now. So this is where you can just switch on agent sharing, and you can do a few things like copy the link to the agent, share the agent directly here as well. And then you've got some analytics about the agent, like how many people have saved it to their library, unique uses of the agent, number of uses, and then estimated revenue. So you can see I've technically earned 3 cents from this agent already. So this is where you can switch on monetization for the agent if you so wish. You can decide to publish it on SimTheory, and you'll see it automatically fills out the description, the categories. You've just got to pick the age rating here for the agent, and you can submit it, and then it just goes through an approval process. And then below that, you've got monetization, so you can switch that on. You do need to be on the Creator or Pro plan. I don't know if we'll restrict that forever, but right now it's just that the margins are such that we will literally go broke, personally, standing up all these models on GPUs if we don't kind of try and get you to pay more if you want to share the revenue. And then what else have we got here? So we've got enable agent cloning. So this is where you can open source your agent. So you can turn this on and people can clone your agent. By default, they won't get access to the knowledge graph ever. That's your particular interactions with that agent. So don't freak out about that. And below that, you've got allow memory cloning. Now, you can turn this on and then it will clone the long-term memory as well. But if you don't want that to happen, because you've got private files in there or whatever, you can switch it off. And then let's look at going to a new tab here. And this is a link into the agent itself. So this is what a user of your agent would see. They don't have access to the memory or any of those other things that you saw. It just looks, you know, like a normal sort of chat interface here that they can access and use. So let's look at a few more examples. So now I'll show you the BatStoryWriter, which is just like a great example of building an instruction-based app rather than a chat-based app that I just showed you. So you can see this is still pretty simple to follow. So in my greeting, I've got pretty clear instructions about how it works. You pick a villain, you give me some basic plot points for the story. I craft a 500-word story. I create a picture that represents the story. Below that, you've got the first input. So you're asking us, the user, for the antagonist of the story. We want input. Now this is a little bit different. So we're asking it to create option buttons. So in input method, instead of chat, we now have option buttons. And we're saying render buttons with, and we're selecting instructions. And so we're going to give it instructions about how to create the buttons for this step. So we say list common antagonists. I should say antagonists in the Batman story. Example, the Joker, Mr. Freeze are the villain. Under change here, you can actually go and get data from a web crawl. So this is how we do the horse racing, where it puts the buttons in as the race numbers. So we go and actually can crawl data and get the latest races and then create the buttons using that. So these are really advanced options. I'll do another video explaining how they work, but you can play around with them. And then caching. So by default, it'll cache for 24 hours here. But if you need it to reproduce the buttons, generally you only need to do this if you're crawling something and you want it to maybe update every hour or whatever. Then you can do that, or you can choose to not cache at all. It just means the experience is like way faster if you cache. So that's an example of an entirely different instruction. And one thing I would stress is don't be afraid to put in whatever you want in the instruction. Like what you want to happen, just put in. You'd be amazed at what it can do. And if in doubt, just select automatic and we'll try and like, well, we won't, but the AI will try and just like put it together for you. So the second input here is ask the user for basic plot points for the story. So first we had ask the user for the antagonist of the story, ask the user for the basic plot points of the story. And in this case, we only want to accept text because text is what we need for this input. Below that, you've got the next task, which is write a 600-word Batman story based on the protagonist. That should actually be antagonist, but whatever. And plot points provided to the user. So we're just reminding it the plot points provided to the user. You don't have to. It's actually pretty good at holding the context of the instructions now. It's taken a lot of work to get it to do that, but it's pretty good at it. So below that, we've got task. I've selected the skill write creative content. This is, really a skill tuned to do that. And then below that, I'm selecting Claude 2 with a 100K context window. Now, Claude 2, in my opinion, is the best story writer in the world right now for AI. So that's why I've picked that model. And in thought guidance, I've got consider the traditional themes of Batman stories such as justice, morality, and the struggles against crime while incorporating the user's ideas. Again, we could do a reinforced memory here of like an example of like a really good Batman story. That would be a good way to use reinforced memory here. And then for output template, we could have like, here is the story, and then put like story. And that would give it, a way that you want that output to appear in the chat. Now, we have a lot of ideas around output type or output template over time where you could give it like a blank template of a Word doc, and then it could go, fill it in for you based on data or create the whole thing. So this is a pretty basic implementation of output type right now, but pretty useful as well, as you can see. And then finally, create an image to help convey the meaning of the story. So in this one, we're selecting task. We've got skill, make an image. We've got AI model. We're just using 3.5 turbo because it's fast to create the prompt for the image. So that's the model it'll use to create the prompt. And then below that, I've got stable diffusion, XL, and censored. The reason I'm using that is because it DALL-E goes a bit mental with its censorship if you use it. So I just use stable diffusion XL. And then the image should reflect key elements of the story, such as the protagonist, Gotham City, and any significant symbols or themes. Make the characters look like real Batman characters. So that's kind of how you would do it there. Of course, if you wanted to ask for the plot points before the antagonist, you could just change the order and that will change the whole workflow of the agent. Now up here, which I didn't kind of mention earlier, is you've got history. So if you make a mistake or stuff something up, you can just go back in time by clicking on history there as well. Memory is kind of irrelevant for this agent at the moment, so it doesn't really matter too much. So now let's go and try it out. So we've got the instructions at the top, you can see, and as I said earlier, the greeting stuff, it's always there. And then we've just got to pick our villain. So you'll see it says, Mike Sharkey, the time has come to unveil the formidable foe that shall challenge the Dark Knight in a thrilling narrative. So I can say I want Mr. Freeze. And it'll ask me what obstacles shall Batman encounter in his battle against his frozen foe. He tries to rob the bank, but accidentally freezes himself. Okay, so it'll say, I'm now weaving the threads of your ideas into a gripping Batman narrative. So here we go. It's writing the story. So Gotham City Bank, midnight, the vault door creaked open, a blast of frigid air rushing out into the dark bank. So pretty cool. It's writing the story based on everything we just specified. And it's just a really nice way of instruction following where you can get a consistent output every time, but it's still really creative. And I literally use this every single night for my kids because they're obsessed with Batman. So I just like create a new story from every night. What's cool about it is they can use their imagination to come up with the plot points. They get to pick the bad guy. and then they get this cool picture at the end to look at based on the story that was created. And so it's a really powerful way to educate them and be able to read to them. And I wish I had it when I was a kid. Now, this is like a pretty basic example of what this thing can do. So you can have a lot of instructions and do some pretty long processes and automate a lot of different things. And we'll be sharing a lot more advanced agents over time and how how they all work through. So that was really just my introduction. I'll cut back in a moment to the picture once I have it, to SimTheory and how to build agents. I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough. There's obviously a lot to it, and as I said in the latest episode, if you've watched it, a lot of the tools and the buttons and everything were these like hacky things that Chris and I had built to have the Batman storyteller, with zero intention to ever release this to our listeners. But we kind of just got to a point where we're like, let's put an interface on this thing so everyone can have a go with it and play around with it. So we hope you enjoy using it. We'd love your feedback on it. Please join the Discord, tell us what you think, and I look forward to seeing what you guys create.